Hi there. Is Nairobi an expensive city to live in? A simple Google search or even a search on YouTube and you're gonna see multiple videos out there actually alleging that Nairobi could in fact be one of the most expensive cities to live in Africa. That's why I'm making this video to actually share in details with regards to if truly Nairobi is an expensive city to live in, and even so, what is the cost of living in Nairobi, Kenya? Having said that, you are all much welcomed to the Money Daily YouTube channel. My name is Afagza Sifuna. And by the way, I've noticed a good number of y'all are watching videos but not really subscribed to the channel. So kindly consider subscribing for you to be getting awesome actionable insights each and every day with regards to how you can multiply your money. Having said that, what is the cost of living in Nairobi, Kenya? As a starting point, let's give context. Nairobi is the capital city of Kenya, a country located in East Africa with a population of about 53 million people. And of course, a good number of these are actually living in Nairobi, Kenya, because we're talking about over 6 million people living in the city. And Kenya being a low middle income country actually tells you the cost of living compared to other more developed countries out there in absolute terms is kind of low. But in the grand scheme of things, you're going to realize it kind of like evens out with a good number of cities out there because of difference in the purchasing power parity. Let me give you all an example. Cost of living, for example, in Nairobi compared to cities out there like New York, London, Tokyo, and so forth, is going to show you that the cost of living in Nairobi is on average 60% low compared to these developed cities out there, excluding the cost of rent. And even more closer home, compared to other cities in Africa, you could still find that those cities in Africa which are actually more expensive to live in compared to Nairobi. For example, Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, which actually is a diplomatic headquarters of the African continent because of many bilateral organizations and also many unions being headquartered in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. For example, the Africa Union, the Africa CDC, the Africa Economic Forum, and so forth. And even another example closer home, Nairobi compared to Johannesburg, compared to Dakar, compared to Gaborone in Botswana, still shows you Nairobi is much cheaper compared to these cities I just mentioned. And even this year I saw some study by the Business Insider, which was kind of astonishing because based on the listing of the top 15 most expensive cities in Africa, Nairobi wasn't featured in any of these ranks. It was kind of astonishing because we had over 16 cities ahead of Nairobi with regards to the cost of living. Name them: Johannesburg, Dakar, Gaborone, Casablanca, to mention a few, right? So this shows you that the cost of living in Nairobi is not that expensive per se, but that comes with a caveat. Just like, for example, any status in life you want to enjoy, Nairobi gives you plethora of kind of lifestyles you want out there. So at the end of the day, the cost really will fluctuate depending on what you are going for. For example, if you're going, for example, to high-end, you want, for example, a high-end townhouse, right? You want, for example, a high-end multifamily house and so forth. Be sure Nairobi is going to serve you this in a hot platter, but also you're going to pay quite expensively for this. And also, in case you're a modest person, in case you are observing financial minimalism and so forth, also Nairobi has very simple houses out there. For example, it has very simple studios, which, by the way, someone could even get a simple studio in Nairobi with as low as under $100 per month. That shows you there is a very wide range with regards to what the true cost of living in Nairobi is. But in this video, I'm going to just discuss the average and also discuss with you what really informs this cost of living. Okay? So, having said that, on average, a single person living in Nairobi would roughly spend somewhere between $300 to $500 a month. And most of the times, depending on where they want to live in the city, it could exclude the cost of rent. And then, a person, for example, in a family setting, a family of about 3 to 4 people, could spend somewhere between $1,500 to about $2,000 US per month to live in the city of Nairobi, assuming they want to live at least from the middle class to the upper class areas in the city of Nairobi. And this cost of living is informed by key factors. Of course, at the center of it, and actually also a thing that fluctuates hugely and is a main driver of the cost of living, is the housing situation. So rent is actually a big driver with regards to someone's cost of living or someone's expense in whichever city out there. And Nairobi is not an exclusion. Also in the city of Nairobi, rent is one of the main drivers of cost of living, because we're talking about Nairobi actually serving people different kind of real estate properties, different kind of houses, depending on someone's desire. Just as I've mentioned, for example, in Nairobi, someone can find, for example, very simple studios, okay? Someone can find, for example, very simple apartments. Someone can find, for example, good townhouses. Someone can find, for example, bungalows. It all depends on what really you're going for. And having said that, rent alone in Nairobi could range from somewhere $100 per month to even upwards of $2,000 per month. It depends with what you are going for and what you're looking for. And in context of Kenya shillings, we're talking about really the cost of rent or housing situation in the city costing somewhere between 7,000 Kenya shillings to even upwards of 200,000 Kenya shillings. So as you can see, this is a main driver of the cost of living in the city. And of course, this also goes with which area in the city are you living in, because there are those areas, for example, in the city which are considered high-end areas. For example, areas around Lavington, Karen, Kileleshwa, and so forth. And other areas are considered like middle class. Areas in the city, for example, around Kasarani, Ruaka, Langata, and so forth. And then there are those other areas in the city which someone can find somewhat cheap housing options, okay? More so, these areas are located somewhere in the stretch of Eastlands areas. You could find cheap housing options there, somewhere between $50 to about $100 per month. Beyond rent situation, also other cost of living in the city is food. People have to eat. And just like rent, this also a recurring cost in the city. Food could also actually vary greatly depending on what someone is going for, depending on someone's diet and so forth. But on average, expect, for example, a single person living in the city to spend about $100 to about $200 per month on food, right? And in case it is a family setting, expect the food situation in the household to cost somewhere upwards of $300 per month. And of course, I'm not including even the situation whereby, for example, people go to eat out there and so forth. And then beyond these, also transport is a huge driver of the cost of living in the city. Nairobi city, just like other rapidly growing cities out there, face the perennial headache of traffic jams, causes the hike in the price of transport out there. And all this also is not assisted by the situation in the economy, because the price of fuel has been rising and rising over the past few months. So transport is also going to cost you quite a buck in case you want to move a lot in the city of Nairobi. But that is somewhat within manageable range, because we're talking about somewhere under 15,000 per month Kenya shillings, right? Having said that, you might be wondering, what do people do in essence in Nairobi city to make money? Because we're talking about all this plethora of expenses, also there are multiple things people do out there to make money. And just to summarize for you all, most of the times people make money in Nairobi city either through working in form of employment out there or even doing their own business. And these I can't discuss in this video because it's a whole discussion by itself. I'm going to make a follow-up video on the kind of hustles people do in the city of Nairobi so that you understand the breadth of income or inflows of cash in the city of Nairobi. Thanks a lot for watching this video. I look forward to share with you other awesome videos next time. Bye bye and you all take care.